So in Bitcoin, why it's so exciting, and I have a lot more Bitcoin than I do gold, certainly vol adjusted, I have 10 times as much. It's such a new asset, and it's like a virus that's just starting to spread, right? The fact that Larry Fink got orange pilled and believes in it is the single biggest thing that happened for it this year, just because he has such clout. BlackRock touches so many places, right? We're going to compete against them in the ETF, but think about it. Now we've got Invesco with us, BlackRock, Wisdom Tree, Fidelity. Pretty soon you're going to have 9 sales forces selling the Bitcoin story. So the adoption of this idea that Bitcoin is a store of value is going straight up. The SEC, I think, will approve this in the next 10 days, 2 weeks. Jan 10th is kind of a cutoff date because of a lawsuit they had with Grayscale. It looks like there's not going to be in-kind distribution, which is not the best thing. You know, it'll be more interesting from a trading perspective, but every other ETF seems to have in-kind. And so Gensler's still trying to gum up the works a little bit. I would argue that Bitcoin, which is $1 trillion asset after, 14 years, might be the single greatest brand ever created, right? We created a 14, Tesla's close and Apple's up there. We created in 14 years, $1 trillion brand that doesn't have a CEO, that's owned by no one, that's universally known. It's, it's marketing genius. And if you look at Apple from its 14th year to its 30th year, I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin takes a bigger trajectory. Things spread virally, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Mike Novogratz, a billionaire and the CEO of Galaxy Digital, boasts decades of financial market experience. Throughout his career, he contends that Bitcoin represents the most significant opportunity he has ever witnessed. In this update, Novogratz delves into the current state of the crypto market, offering insights into the Bitcoin ETF and highlighting the influential role BlackRock is poised to play in 2024, surpassing other institutional investors. Novogratz anticipates that the forthcoming bull run will surpass any seen in the past. He argues that the imminent approval of the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF by the SEC signals a substantial influx of capital into the space. Emphasizing the potential, he notes that even a 1% investment from institutions could unleash hundreds of billions of dollars into the market, propelling Bitcoin to parabolic heights. He predicts a remarkable increase of around 400% in Bitcoin's value due to the ETF, projecting a price target close to $150,000 per Bitcoin in 2024. To delve deeper into Novogratz's insights, stay tuned until the end of the video, where he elucidates why Bitcoin is not just a cryptocurrency but the greatest brand ever created in human history. He explains why this virus of exponential spread is inevitable.
I call it economic stewardship. I always say Bitcoin is a report card on good economic stewardship. If we took our deficit from our spending from 25% to 20%, and our deficit from 6% to 0, Bitcoin would be lower, not higher. And gold would be lower, not higher. And so I don't see our government, the European governments, almost any government getting away from what I call populism. And Satoshi saw that when he wrote the Bitcoin white paper. The white paper was literally like a cure to populism. And that's what the core of Bitcoin is. It's a social construct between two people that says, I'm going to put my hard-earned savings in this system, this community of people who are governed by this constitution in a fixed supply currency. There's a macro backdrop and there's an adoption backdrop, right? So in Bitcoin, why it's so exciting, and I have a lot more Bitcoin than I do gold, certainly vol adjusted, I have 10 times as much. It's such a new asset. And it's like a virus that's just starting to spread, right? The fact that Larry Fink got orange pilled and believes in it is the single biggest thing that happened for it this year, just because he has such clout. BlackRock touches so many places, right? We're going to compete against them in the ETF, but think about it. Now we've got Invesco with us, BlackRock, Wisdom Tree, Fidelity. Pretty soon you're going to have 9 sales forces selling the Bitcoin story. So the adoption of this idea that Bitcoin is a store of value is going straight up. What I think people miss, and I talked a lot about this in 2017 when we had our first mania, is that crypto was really the first ever global speculative mania. We never had a global market. You had a couple stocks that were traded globally, but if you go back and you look at the 99 internet bubble, like You didn't have anyone in Korea participating, anyone in India participating, anyone in Russia participating, anyone in Africa participating. Crypto is global. And just like I'm telling the Bitcoin story on CNBC and Bloomberg and on podcasts here in New York, there's someone in a village in Indonesia telling that story. And the viral nature of 8 billion people getting more converts every day is really hard to stop. The other piece of this is Bitcoin exists within a movement called, you can call it crypto or decentralization. And that movement touches people in a way because it feels like it's a revolution. It's a revolution of saying, I want to cut out the middleman. I want to trust in myself. I want to have peer-to-peer transaction. I want to have more efficiency, equal access. So there's this, I think, progressive, but it's like it's half progressive, half libertarian ethos that people buy into. And so you've seen it in the Ethereum community or in all these other communities that have showed up. What's been disappointing is outside of payments, not in the US, but out in Mideast, Africa, Latin America, crypto is used a lot for payments, stable coins mostly. The core next mission, the Web3 mission, the decentralized trading, the decentralized rideshare, the decentralized ticketing, hasn't really shown up yet. Some green shoots, it's taking longer than I thought for those projects to get scale. When I went to 69,000, I remember people were like, well, then it started going down. They're like, oh, it's supposed to be an inflation hedge. I was like, dudes, you bought it at 6,000 18 months ago.
Right.
You got to 69,000 because we were worried about inflation. Now Chairman Powell took out a big hammer and he is nailing us on the head with it. And it's supposed to go down because he's trying to stop inflation. The fraud of Sam Fried and Alex Machinsky and the guys from Three Arrows Capital, this group of either really bad actors or dumb actors or people that didn't understand risk or malicious intent actors really hit us hard, because if crypto was about decentralizing trust, right, taking trust away from Jamie Dimon and having it into a community, well, we had this weird hybrid of centralized crypto run by a bunch of idiots and bad actors. And so the whole space took a real, I would argue that Bitcoin, which is $1 trillion asset after 14 years, might be the single greatest brand ever created. Right? We created Tesla's close and Apple's up there. We created in 14 years, $1 trillion brand that doesn't have a CEO, that's owned by no one, that's universally known. It's, it's marketing genius. And if you look at Apple from its 14th year to its 30th year, I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin takes a bigger trajectory. Things spread virally, but it doesn't happen overnight. What Satoshi came up with in that white paper, in order to create Bitcoin, he had to create the first private property in the digital world. Before Satoshi, there was no private property on the internet. And that's hard to kind of comprehend what it means. It means that you send me a great looking picture of this guy and I could control, copy, and paste and send 10,000 out. So it has no value. But now, because it can exist on a blockchain, it can be verified, it can have value. So from the simple example of NFTs to your healthcare records to anything transmitted digitally, it can have value. So I can transmit value. And that's the part of Satoshi's revolution that still needs to sprout. And some of that will be built on Bitcoin. Most of it won't be. It'll be built on Ethereum and Solana and some other series of chains that collectively is one giant shared database that processes and authenticates your information and holds it. And people have to believe in that. They have to learn to trust that trust machine, because it is a trust machine. And so that process is taking longer. I remember talking to Van Jones, who's a friend of mine. He got a $100 million grant from Jeff Bezos to spend on something cool in philanthropy. And he thought about our voting and how broken our trust in voting is. He was like, oh my God, voting on the blockchain. So he called me up and I was like, Maybe we should start with voting for American Idol candidates on the block. Well, just to teach people how this stuff works, because it's a little hocus pocus, and we need to get it. It's not, if you're a scientist, you put your mind to it, you can really understand it. But to the average person, we've got to get it to where they believe it, but it becomes the back of the TV.
Right.
No one cares about how data is authenticated and stored. Retail is surprisingly invested and continues to invest. We have one client, so we don't deal with retail direct, but we deal with the institutional clients that deal with them. And so all the platform companies, the PayPals, the Squares, those of the world who have these wallets that collect money, and we do some of the trading for some of those companies. And there's one alone that, between what they do with us and their two other trading counterparties, buys more Bitcoin every day than is mined. So the whole mining supply is swallowed up by one app in the US every day. That's the global mining supply. And so one of the reasons I think Bitcoin has a shot of parabolic is this. There are 8 billion people out there, a couple, 250 million people own a Bitcoin or some piece of a Bitcoin. As that goes a little more viral, those small checks add up immensely. We are seeing institutions come in. We're seeing hedge funds buy with our trading desk for the first time in a long time, the last couple months. I talked to one of my friends who's got a big decentralized platform. He said he saw volume double and then double again in the last 2 months. And so that's more retail online. Most institutions are still buying futures because it's simpler and they can call their prime broker, and they will switch to the ETF. I think the ETF will have a dominant amount of liquidity in Bitcoin, and then we'll have an Ethereum one. And that'll make it so much easier for the institutional capital to come in.
Mike Novogratz delves into Bitcoin's potential and the transformative influence of cryptocurrency within financial markets. Shaped by decades of experience, his perspective underscores the unprecedented opportunities inherent in Bitcoin, especially in light of the anticipated approval of the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. Novogratz's forecast of an impending bull run, surpassing any seen before, aligns with his belief in Bitcoin's potential for a substantial 400% increase, setting a thrilling stage for 2024 with a target price nearing $150,000. However, perhaps the most captivating aspect of Novogratz's viewpoint on Bitcoin is his assertion that it stands as the greatest brand in human history, poised for exponential spread. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.